Well, from reviewing 111 to another, I suppose. I knew I wanted to do a platformer next given how reviewing an RPG, while enjoyable, is fairly time consuming to say the least. Especially with a college schedule. It really just came down to deciding which one I wanted to play. But then I saw the Mega Man 30th Anniversary bundle on PSN, which for $60 gets you all the Mega Man and Mega Man X games, including the newly released Mega Man 11. This bundle is a legitimate steal, and if you've ever wanted to get into the series, this is a great way to do so. The only thing I know going into this game is that it seems to be really good, but people are complaining about its difficulty. And not to say they're wrong, but this is a series that's been built on classic platforming challenge. So I was already going in assuming that it was going to be a challenge. So in other words, I don't know anything. Let's get into Mega Man 11. The game begins with a flashback to Dr. Light and Wily's college days, where they're arguing over the majesty of this guy's mustache. I mean Wily's new invention, a gear system that can enhance a robot's capabilities, but is dangerous to their well-being. Dr. Wily wakes up from his flashback dream remembering the very invention that turned him down his dark path in the first place. So what, did he just come up with a scientific breakthrough then forget about it? In the present, Dr. Light is inspecting robots for their routine checkups, but suddenly Dr. Wily shows up to show off his new completed gear system, along with taking the convenient guinea pig robots there. Mega Man wants to pursue them, but Dr. Light is quick to tell him that as he is now, he doesn't stand a chance. A few days later, he's geared up and ready to take down 8 Robot Masters and Wily for the 11th time. Just from this opening cutscene, Mega Man 11 plays into its cartoony aesthetic great. There are only a few cutscenes in the game, but they all play out like this. And honestly, anything more would just be unneeded padding. But even beyond that, this graphical style fits the game well. Mega Man for most of its games have only used an 8-bit style with only occasional departures. So the fact that this rocks a brand new 3D graphical style is neat. I could easily see future games reuse this style because it works and it brings the game aesthetically to modern audiences. These visuals might have been modernized, but the gameplay is still classic Mega Man. 8 stages, 8 bosses, just what you'd expect. I don't know where to start, so let's start here? Alright, this isn't too bad. You can shoot these guys to blow things up on the stage, that's pretty cool. And you can... oh. Okay, it's been a while. Time to get the old platform gears turning, huh lads? Hey, I can use the time gear here to better maneuver through the stage. Alright, made it to the mini-boss, let's do the... okay. That's the beauty of these games. Even if you can't beat one stage, you can always try another and come back later. And I gotta say, these controls are spot on. Mega Man controls so precisely that whether I'm jumping, shooting, or sliding, I always feel like I'm in control. Most of my deaths less came from the platforming and more from the stage hazards themselves. Alright, time for Bounce Man stage. This is sure, something. It's fun, but I think I'll come back here later too. I didn't realize my first go around that you could just hold down jump to bounce. I thought you had to jump precisely to bounce. That's my bad, oops. You know what? I do know something. I remember seeing Blockman for promotional materials. Let's try there. Well, yeah, this stage is pretty easy. Yeah, there are a few annoying parts, but this is a great place to practice the controls in the new gear system. Okay, here we go, first boss. Oh, that's how we're playing this, huh? Dr. Light wasn't kidding when he said you need the new gear system. And while there are a few times you ever need to use the gear system, it's a legitimate lifesaver. One that allows you to overcome obstacles and enemies you might not be able to otherwise. Specifically the speed gear, which lets you slow down everything around you, allowing for better platforming, maneuvering, or damage output. And since it's on a cooldown, and usable on the fly, it can make getting past specific platforming sections easier without much hassle, as long as you don't burn out. There's also the power gear that strengthens your Mega Buster, but I find myself using it less. Because the speed gear already gives you a pretty reliable damage boost, and the power gear really only gives you one good Mega Shot before it burns out. But don't be fooled though, the power gear holds a secret. Once you start getting boss weapons, it can power them up Mega Man X style. And when you're at critical health, you can activate both for a last stand. Be careful though, because once it's over, it messes up your Mega Buster until it cools down. This is a fun new system that helps players new or old with overcoming the game's challenges. And oh yeah, there are challenges in this game. That's right, I'm looking at you Acid Man Spikes, and you too Torchman Chase sections. That being said, apart from the game's occasional difficulty spike, I find a bulk of the difficulty to come from the length of the stages more than anything. Looking at the individual parts of each stage, the challenges are pretty middle ground honestly. But when you put that together with limited checkpoints, you have what feels like gauntlets. Just one wrong move and you're potentially back to the beginning or halfway point. I think just a single added checkpoint for a lot of these stages would help out a lot. That being said, these stages are still incredibly enjoyable and fun to play through. And practicing and overcoming the challenges they pose feels good. Also, side note, it could have just been me, but I also found the game to be stingy with health pickups until I bought an upgrade for that, making the game's fairly easy enemies hard due to damage over time. Mega Man 11 does, however, make up for its challenge by giving players options to help overcome it. Having a difficulty selection is one thing, and the gear system is definitely a big help, but the game also provides you with Rush Coil right from the beginning, which when used at the right time can help you get past a lot of sections easier. And once you take out half the Robot Masters, you get the nice addition of Rush Jet too. Speaking of Robot Masters, as you take them down and collect their weapons, dealing with enemies and stage hazards also becomes a lot easier. But another big help is the return of Otto's shop, where you can buy energy tanks for cheap, an item that lets you restore your HP to full. Not just that though, Beat the Bird is back to save you from bottomless pits, and this other item protects you from spikes. I reached a point where even if the stage was giving me a lot of trouble, I knew I could always come in with something to make it a lot easier. But even then, just on the merit of playing the game alone, your skills will increase to the point where you won't even realize it. So even if you fail a stage or two or fall to the boss, with the skills you develop and the items you can buy, you can make a strong comeback. Okay, but you know what really helps with the difficulty here? Nah, not all those nice accommodations, but the music. Sure, I died in the stage, but I'm listening to this nice energetic music and I still feel alive and grooving. Let's go, lads. Mega Man has always had great music, and this just continues that trend. I can't think of a single track I didn't like. There we go, I'm back in the groove and have energy tanks for days. Let's do this. Hey, that wasn't too bad. I wonder if every boss has 2 forms. Hey, Mega Man learned Rock Slide, cool. And the game lets you try out new powers you get. You know the deal. Once you knock down one boss, the rest will follow. And even if you don't have the proper weakness, once you get into the groove, Mega Man 11's Robot Masters are kind of easy. Being able to stock up energy tanks is nice, but the real star here is the speed gear. It makes avoiding their attacks and getting in hits really easy. And the weapons they give out are great too. My favorites are the Block Slide, which is really strong and allows you to hit awkward to hit enemies. The Ice Hurricane for its delicious screen nuking power, and the Fire Shot because the angle is surprisingly useful. But Acid Man's shield is super helpful for deflecting projectiles, and Blast Man's supers, oof, that's nice. And even though I got it last, Impact Man's weapon is giving me more of those Mega Man X vibes. It's powerful and gives you a fun new air dash. And Bounce Man's Spread Shot is just fun. It's just bouncy balls. Fuse Man's weapon is probably the most awkward, but I still found uses for it. It's not every day you play a Mega Man game where every weapon has some use beyond its boss weakness. And that gets pushed to another level with the Power Gear. I've already mentioned the Ice Screen Nuke and the Super Blast. These weapons go from well-rounded to absolutely insane. And there's no enemy that should really give you a problem with this arsenal. I also have to mention how each power-up gives Mega Man an appearance change. It's a nice extra touch they didn't have to do, and I appreciate it anyway. With all the Robot Masters down for the count, Wily reveals himself and gets mad at Light for using his gear system. Maybe you should have gotten a patent for that, huh, Wily? After that, it's time for the Wily stages. And man, saying Wily so many times in a row is not fun. Willard Stage 1 is probably the hardest stage in the game. All my issues with the level design come in full force here. No section of it is awful, but it's long. There's a bunch of bottomless pits, and there's enemies and stage hazards for days. It is fun to use all your boss weapons in appropriate situations. But the stage really isn't the big problem here. It's a little annoying, but once you get it down pat, you're good. The real issue is, oh no, who let him back in? Maybe this will be a little easier if the speed oh no, he has it too! He's easily the hardest boss in the game, but with a few well-placed Super Blasts, and he's out for the count. Here's a nice piece of advice. You can even damage him when he's in his gremlin state. But yeah, that was the hardest stage and boss in the game. The next stage has some platforming challenges too, but lacks as many bottomless pits and stage hazards, making it a much smoother experience. And the boss, while not completely easy, is much better to handle than the Yellow Devil. With that done, it's on to the annual Mega Man Boss Rush, to give you that sweet sense of growth and how far you've come with all those bot energy tanks. And here we go with Lilium for the third plus 1th time. It's nothing too extreme here. Hit the skull, put him in the phase 2, and use all your train to realize it's probably your most awkward weapon that's his weakness. And down Wallace goes. I'm gonna be honest, with how hard the Yellow Devil was, I was expecting something more. But I have to give credit, that final section where he goes crazy with the gears was pretty cool. Being pushed into a corner, Wily executes his plan B in crying and begging for mercy, but Mega Man isn't having any of that. And as you can imagine, he manages to escape, but at least Dr. Light was able to save the Robot Masters in time. Mega Man then rides off into the sunset, wondering why Reploids must fight. Whether or not he's going to get to keep his cool new mechanic or not. Yup, that sure was a Mega Man game. You jump, shoot, and slide through a variety of bosses and stages. And that's why it's so good. In an industry full of reboots and revivals, having a new Mega Man game that is a Mega Man game is a comforting feeling. Kinda like having pancakes for dinner. With the success of this game, Monster Hunter World, and Resident Evil, along with the upcoming Devil May Cry, Capcom is re-solidifying themselves as an IP powerhouse. If you're a Mega Man fan, let's be honest, you already bought this game. But for everyone else, this is the real deal. For such a short game, that $30 price tag might turn some people off. But if you can grab that $60 bundle, that's a legitimate steal. This was a great time and one I'm sure I'll revisit again in the future with a different boss order or on a higher difficulty. Hopefully this does well enough to warrant future Mega Man games and possibly even a future Mega Man X game. Thanks for watching everyone, and if you're feeling geared for it, why not like, comment, or subscribe for future videos? Or maybe watch my video on Dragon Quest XI. Also, I admit that last gear pun was forced. Goodbye everyone!